What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a brand new episode of VR 365. What's going on? It has been a long time. It's actually been a while since we've done an episode of VR 365, and I got to admit, I'm still kind of in this VR funk. You can call it a general video gaming funk. I do have some stuff that is going on behind the scenes that is completely unrelated, that is distracting me and causing a bit of problems. So I have not been super hyped in VR gaming news, and all of this sort of stuff. But you know what I am still excited about, folks? I am excited about investing, okay? Investing. And what the hell does that have to do with virtual reality? What does it have to do with augmented reality? What does it have to do with VR 365? Well, here's the thing. I thought it would be a good idea to have another episode on this channel because, you know, nothing's been going on, right? And I'm not really that hyped and excited about like the current news that's going on in the VR world or like current games that are coming out right now. But I am active in the stock market and I am very interested in investing and taking advantage of inside knowledge. Yes, all of you guys have inside knowledge that virtual reality and augmented reality, these are both runaway trains. They've left the station. There's no stopping it. There's no getting the toothpaste back in the bottle. It is simply a question of when, not if. Virtual reality and augmented reality are absolutely going to dominate virtually every fabric of society in the coming decades. We know this now. We've already seen a sneak peek of this now. How many times have you known somebody, they put on a VR headset, they looked around for a couple of seconds, and then they were like, oh shit, this is going to take over the world. We've all had that moment. We've all had that aha moment. And the question is, can you take that aha moment and actually take big time advantage of it? Think about the past, think about things that have happened in history over the last 20, 30 years, different technologies that have come and gone, and maybe you had advanced warning of this. Maybe you were an early adopter in a particular technology. You could see what was going on here, but you didn't invest in it. And 20 years later, you're kicking yourself for not doing so. And so that's what this episode is all about. We're going to talk about investing in virtual reality and augmented reality. Now, I'm sure there might be a handful of people that could tune into this show and be like, what the hell is this? Virtual investing, stocks? Like, I don't want to hear about this. I want to hear about the latest VR games, the latest VR news. Well, the thing is, you might still want to tune into this episode because it's almost like this episode is going to be about stocks and stuff. But the thing is, it's kind of about who's going to win the VR war. Like, which horse are you going to back? When you're investing in VR, you're basically making a bet on the future. You are a prognosticator. You're thinking into the future and you're saying, you know what, in about 4 or 5 years, I believe blank is going to happen. And so if you can predict the winner of the race, you stand to profit and profit handsomely. And when I was thinking about this topic and I'm thinking about investing in VR, there's so many different ways that we can possibly look at this subject. And I came to the realization that there's no way I can do this entire thing in a single episode. So this is actually going to kind of be like a series that is going to be on VR 365. This is kind of episode 1 of investing in virtual reality, if you will. It's going to be like a little sub-series that is going to be on the VR 365 channel. There's absolutely no way that I can possibly cover everything in this particular episode. That is just impossible. There's too much detail. There's too much to get into. And so today, what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on what I call the grand prize. And what is the grand prize? Well, the grand prize is basically what I was just talking about. You have maybe 7, 8, 9 different horses that are in this race, and then bam, the gun goes off and the horses are out of the gate and they're sprinting down the track. Which horse is going to win the ultimate prize? And when I'm talking about the ultimate prize, I'm talking about 15 years from now, which company is going to be absolutely dominating virtual reality and augmented reality. And it could be the same company, it could be different companies. And as we've seen with almost every industry on planet Earth, rarely is there a singular company that absolutely dominates the landscape 100%. For example, if you look at the world of video gaming, is there one single company that is absolutely dominating the entire video game world? And the answer is no. You can look at Sony with PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and what they've done with PlayStation overall. They do appear to be kind of in the driver's seat to some degree, but you can also talk about Apple with the App Store and all the games that are sold on there. You can talk about Google, the Android Store, all the games that are sold on there. You can talk about Nintendo and what they're doing with the Nintendo Switch. You can talk about Xbox. You can talk about Epic Games. You can talk about Steam. And that's the other thing. A lot of the companies that you might be most excited about investing in, well, some of these companies are private. And it's very difficult to invest in them, not completely impossible. Sometimes private companies will seek outside investment, and you might be able to get in on some of these private companies, but that's doubtful. But what I'm trying to say here is that there typically isn't just one absolute clear-cut dominator that just takes everything, like a winner-take-all scenario. There typically isn't that. So there's multiple companies that are going to be able to be major players in this thing. So that's what we're going to get into today. But you know what? Before we get into it too far, I do have to start off with, so this is the STONKS thing. Have you guys ever seen like some of these stonk memes and all of this stuff where it's like, invest in STONKS, then wait and profit? It's so hilarious the way they do this. But yeah, this is this little stonk thing. But actually what I do want to get into here really quick is I do have to give a disclaimer about this, because anytime you're talking about any kind of financial information and somebody profiting or not profiting, you got to dot your I's, you got to cross your T's, you got to be straight up legit about it. So I do want to say this at the very top. Number one, I'm not a certified financial planner, advisor, nor a certified financial analyst. I'm not an economist, nor a CPA, nor an accountant or a lawyer. I'm not a finance professional through formal education. The contents of this video are for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial, accounting, or legal advice. I cannot promise that the information shared in this video is appropriate for you or anyone else. By watching this video, you agree to hold me harmless from any ramifications, financial or otherwise, that occur to you as a result of acting on information mentioned in this video. Yeah, so this is something that if you ever get into any kind of financial thing on YouTube or whatever, you're going to see messages like this. They're going to pop up repeatedly throughout the video. I really need to probably bring this up like a couple of more times before this episode's completely over. Hopefully I remember to do so, because the thing is, you just don't want to get in a situation where somebody randomly watches some video, you're talking about a certain stock, they put their entire life savings in it, they're like, no, Anthony told me to do this, I lost my entire life savings, I'm going to sue Anthony for every penny he has. So the idea of these type of disclosures is like, nah brah, you're not going to do that, because I told you from the very beginning that this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment and informational purposes only. Okay, so one of the questions that somebody might want to ask here is like, Why should I care about investing anyway? Investing is for other people. That's for rich people. I don't have any money for this. This is ridiculous. Why would I care about this? You know what? I'm turning this video off and I'm going to go play some Rec Room or something like that, right? Okay, well, here's the thing. I want to talk to the freaking public of the United States of America. This is a public service announcement, and also for anybody out there on planet Earth in general. If you are an adult, if you're 18 years or older, you should be investing in some way, shape, or form, period, dot. You should be investing this year, next year, the year after that, and all the way until your days are done. You should be investing basically every day of your adult life. This should be a factor. Now, I'm not saying you should be day trading. You should be involved with Forex. You should be in Dogecoin. I'm not saying any of that stuff. You don't have to be a heavy investor or really dedicated to this in a super major way, but you should have a little bit of action going on because there's something that's called compound interest. And right here we have Albert Einstein saying compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Yeah, it's a really good quote. And you know what? I guarantee you, if you look into compound interest and you understand what compound interest is all about, like truly grasp the idea of compound interest and understand how it works, you would be an absolute idiot not to get involved in investing in some way, shape, or form and try to begin the process of compounding your interest over and over and over again to the end of time. And that's what investing is all about. Now, just a quick little breakdown of compound interest for those that, are like, they don't know anything. Like, what is compound interest? How does this thing work? Really quickly, let's just imagine you have $100,000. You have $100,000 and you invest it for an entire year and you earn 10% for that entire year. Well, now your $100,000 is now what? It's $110,000. Okay, then you invest that $110,000 for an entire year again, and it also earns 10%. Well, now you've made an additional amount of money because of the compounding interest. So what it is, compound interest is basically when your previous interest is now making interest. It's money that you never had before that is creating new money, and it keeps stacking, and it's exponential. The exponential growth of compound interest is absolutely tremendous. It's amazing how quickly you can double your money. In fact, I didn't make up a little thing for this, but let me see here. I know I have a breakdown about compound interest. Let me grab this really quick because it is important. Let's see, open, and let me look up compound because let's see, compound interest breakdown. Okay. So yeah, here's some interesting factoids about compound interest. Do you know that you can double your money every 70 market days if you can average a 1% return for each market day with all profits reinvested? Now, that's pretty ridiculous, right? For you to have a 1% return every single market day for 70 market days in a row. But if you were able to do that, you can double the entire amount of money that you invested. Okay, here's another example. If you were to earn 0.75% return every day for 93 market days, you double your money. If you were to earn 0.5% every market day for 139 market days, you double your entire amount of money. If you were to earn 0.25% every market day for 278 market days, which is actually more than a year because there's 253 trading days in a year. So it's like a year and 2 months, basically. If you were to earn 0.25% for 278 days, you double your money, all of it. So if you had $100,000 and you were doing it, now you have 200,000. You literally double your money, and you can do it. You can do it potentially within 70 days if you're freaking a whiz kid and you're doing amazing. Now, to be able to do that, you probably would have to make like 10% one day, 4% another day, maybe lose a couple of percents and then make 15%. Like, people have done this. You know, it has been done. And that is the power of compound interest. So I did want to talk about that for a quick second. The other thing I did want to talk about is the risks that are inherent in investing. Nothing comes for free in this world, folks. If you're going to make money in an easy kind of a way, well, you can obviously lose it in an easy kind of a way. And Warren Buffett has a really great statement about this. He says the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. In other words, what he's trying to say is if you're looking for a quick buck, you're probably going to get burned. You're probably going to lose everything. If you're extremely greedy, you are going to get smoked. It is the people that are patient. It's the people that take a long-term view. It's the people that look for steady, long-term appreciation. Those are the people that in the long run, they profit well. It's the impatient people that are looking for that quick hit. They're looking for that get-rich-quick scheme. Well, those people basically transfer their money to the people that are more patient, the people that are calm, the people that don't get emotionally triggered with gyrations in the stock market, both up and down. And that's the way you do it. So it is very risky. I mean, there is a tremendous amount of risk. In fact, you know what I can do really quick here before we get further along? I want to tell you guys a little quick story about investing in the stock market, because do you know, so I have been investing in the stock market recently. I just got back into the stock market game actually in February of this year, February of 2021. Do you know that it has literally been 20 years since I really invested in the stock market? 20 years. For 20 years, I did not touch the stock market. Why? Why would I do that? It sounds absolutely crazy, right? Okay, well, here's the thing. In the 90s, like around 1996 or 1997, that's when I first got into investing. And it was unfortunate because, let me tell you something, I got into investing and I got really lucky really fast. And I made some really good money really quickly. And what happened was I got a false sense of security. And I started thinking, oh my God, I'm a genius. I'm a freaking Wall Street wizard. I'm just making money like it's going out of style. This is so easy. This is taking candy from a baby. That's the danger. It's kind of like if you go to a casino, you're like, I've never gambled before in my life. You go to a casino, bam, you hit a big jackpot. That's actually one of the worst things that can ever happen to you because you get a skewed idea of how easy something is. And so I was in the stock market back in the 90s, in the mid to late 90s, and I did very, very well for myself, let me tell you. I had stuff like Intel, Microsoft, Nokia, DoubleClick, all kinds of different companies I invested in, right? And I did quite well for myself. But what happened was I started to get really greedy. In the year 1999, I started to get really greedy. And so right now in the stock market right now, there's various industries where it's kind of like a bubble that's going on, and it's kind of like a speculative bubble. For example, in the EV industry, electronic vehicles, like batteries, charging stations, all kinds of stuff that is going on in electric vehicles, prices are skyrocketing. It is very much an investment bubble, and it does remind me an awful lot of what happened in 1999 with dot-com companies. So I got caught up in the dot-com frenzy. It was like a freaking gold rush. And I was invested in so many dot-com companies that really didn't have any kind of proven revenue or even like a proven business strategy, but their prices just kept increasing and increasing, and it was a gold rush, right? And so what happened is we had the dot-com bust. The dot-com, the bubble burst. Early in the year 2000, it was a disaster like none other, and I got smoked. I got smoked so bad in 2000. I got smoked so freaking bad. It was like spring and summer of 2000. It was a terrible time that I got burnt so bad that I literally stayed out of the stock market for 20 years. 20 years. So that gives you an idea. So hopefully that can scare a few of you out there and realize, look, it can be a friggin' disaster. It can go the wrong way. You got to understand it. Now, the biggest mistake I made, though, was staying out of the game for 20 years. I should have just dealt with it. It was really bad, right? And I lost a huge amount of money. But had I stuck with the stock market over the last 20 years, do you know where I would be now? So anyways, that's just a little quick story about the history and my situation. But yeah, so I'm back in the market now. And the thing is, I believe that there is an opportunity to profit off of this. And we have an inside knowledge. Like I said, we are ahead of the curve. We're ahead of the curve, ladies and gentlemen, because we have an inside knowledge. We know. See here, let me give you another quick little story. Imagine 20 years from now, you're at somebody's barbecue somewhere. This is really going to happen to some of you, and it's unfortunate, but I guarantee you that this is going to happen to some of you. 20 years from now, you're going to be at somebody's 4th of July barbecue, right? Yeah, it's 4th of July today, by the way. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there. But 20 years from now, 20 years from today, actually, you're going to be at a 4th of July barbecue, and, everybody's going to be eating their hot dogs and drinking a beer or whatever, doing whatever they're doing. And, people just are going to be bullshitting about this and bullshitting about that. And somebody's going to be like, man, can you believe how big virtual reality and augmented reality has gotten? Could you imagine if you knew this 20 years ago? Like how rich you would be if you could have saw this thing coming? And you're going to be sitting in your chair and you're going to be like, oh my God, I did know. I freaking did know, but I didn't do anything about it. You do not want to be that person. You want to get involved. And it doesn't matter if, like, a lot of times when you'll tell people about potentially investing, they'll be like, but I don't have any money for that. I'm in debt right now. I barely pay my monthly bills now. I'm behind on things as it is. I have no money to invest with. Well, that's not good, folks. That's not a good way to think about it. I don't care if you can only invest $20 a month. I don't care if you can only invest $20 a month, because anything that can start the process for you is a good thing. If you have $20 a month, you could buy possibly one share or a percentage of a share of some kind of incredible stock play that is VR related or augmented reality related. And you can do that every single month. And then if you end up getting some more money, then you start allocating some more to it. But you want to build this muscle. You want it to be like an automatic reflex where you're putting a little money into the game. Very wealthy people, which I'm not a very wealthy person, but I aspire to be, right? But extremely wealthy people, a lot of times what they do is when they bring money in from whatever job it is that they bring money in, and a lot of them have a rule where they have to double this money before they can actually use it on, like, buying something frivolous, like going on a trip to Europe or buying a new car or getting a freaking hot tub or something, or whatever crazy thing they want to do, right? They will actually require that they have to double this money, and then they can enjoy it. some people actually have that as a thing, right? So it makes sense. You want to get in this game and you want to invest. So now let's go back let's get into this stock thing. So I wanted to start out today. I mean, there's so many different angles that we can attack this from in terms of how would you invest in VR. And at first I was going to try to do this show in like just one episode, like investing in VR and AR 101, a single episode where I cover every angle of investing in VR and AR. And as I was like trying to get ready for this, I was like, this is not going to work. There's too many things to cover. There's too many angles to go over. So this is going to be a multi-episode series. And this is episode 1. And I've decided with episode 1 that we're going to start off with the grand prize. We're going to start off with basically what all these companies are dreaming about, what Facebook is dreaming about, what HTC is dreaming about, what Sony is dreaming about. Basically, every company under the sun wants that. They want the App Store. Everybody wants to be Apple in the decade of 2010 to 2020, to have the dominating app store on the new computing platform, mobile phones, which is what everybody got into. This is what everybody wants. This is what Facebook wants. This is what they all want. This is what they're all chasing. This is the grand prize. The grand prize is a walled garden ecosystem where you're the parent company, you own this walled garden, and you make a small amount from everything. Everything that happens in your walled garden is generating you revenues. This is the dream that all these companies are dreaming about. And so here's some statistics on this. So Apple's App Store, in 2018, the App Store made roughly $48.5 billion for Apple. In 2019, $50 billion for Apple. And in 2020, $64 billion for Apple. Now, this is according to some analysts that was done by CNBC. So these are estimates. These are not exact amounts. But that just gives you a generalized idea that it is all about the walled garden and it is all about platform holders. But hold on a second, I forgot to mention something and I want to mention this now before I get too far along. Okay, so here's the thing. Some people might be watching this episode hoping that they can learn something about investing in VR and AR, and I hope that some of the information I give you starts your noggin, starts those wheels turning, and you explore this and you figure out some more about it and you fall down this rabbit hole deeper and deeper and deeper. But I got to admit, guys, this video is a selfish video on my part, because you know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping that there's somebody out there, a rare bird, a unicorn, if you will, that happens to stumble upon this video. They watch this video and they're like, yeah, there's some good ideas here. But this person knows way the F more, and then they can leave a comment after this video is over, and that comment can change the course of my net worth over the next 30 years. Yeah, there's people out there that have way more information than I do. They have a better inside look into some pure plays that maybe I wasn't thinking about that's related to virtual and augmented reality. And I'm honestly more excited about looking at the comments section of these videos than anything else. And it's comments after the video, because you never know who's going to watch the video and you never know what super interesting information you might get in the comment section. So I just wanted to mention that. Make sure if you're watching this video later on down the road, please leave a comment if you have an idea on investing in VR or AR that you think might be unique, or a company that everybody is overlooking, maybe some play that we had have no idea that this would be involved in VR or AR, or that it would be affected by VR or AR. Leave it in the comments. It would be so incredibly appreciated, because absolutely, That's something I'm really excited about. Okay, so yeah, so anyway, getting back to this, we're talking about these walled gardens. We're talking about the biggest players in the game, right? They're all chasing this. This is what Facebook is chasing. It's what HTC is chasing. They all want it. So we have to think about it. Okay, so what are the major competitors in this particular category, this walled garden category? And I've got a listing here of a number of them. Platform holders, walled gardens. And this listing is done basically by market cap. This is not necessarily how I think this is going to fall out. These are just companies to consider. Okay, these are companies to consider that are basically going for the grand prize. They want to be the App Store. And we'll go through this list really quick here. So we've got Apple, number one. You can see their market cap is $2.36 trillion. If you were to buy a share of Apple right now, it's $139.96. But here's a little pro tip for wannabe investors out there. Don't worry about the price. The stock price has very little meaning in anything. It's the market cap. The market cap is what matters. The stock price is just the amount of existing shares in circulation divided by, it's the market cap divided by the existing shares that are out there. That's what it is. So for example, you can look at number 3 on our list, which is Google. A single share of Google stock is $2,574.38. One single share. So someone that doesn't really know too much about stock investing might look at that and they might go, wow, Google costs $2,500 a share. Apple is $139 a share. Apple is so much of a better deal. But they don't realize that Apple, the valuation of Apple is way higher. Apple is actually a more expensive company. Now, if you feel there's room for that market cap to continue to grow, it could still be a great investment. But the one key thing is, do not get caught up in the price of the stock. You can get fractional shares. So many people are like, oh, this stock's $7. I can afford that. This stock is $208. I can't afford that. No, that's not how it works. You can get a percent. It's all about percentage gain. It's not about the price of the stock. It's not about how many dollars it went up. It is the percentage gain that matters. Okay, so back to the platform holders that we're looking at. So Apple has the largest market cap of anybody on this list. We know that they are working on virtual reality and augmented reality. And they're the ones with the App Store. These are the ones that everybody's chasing. Is it a shock, ladies and gentlemen, that they're the number one company on this list in terms of market cap? No, it's not a shock because they owned the most valuable walled garden on planet Earth. They owned it for decades, since 2008 when they basically created it. And everybody has wanted that. So they're sitting on the throne. They want to protect the throne. The last thing Apple ever wants to happen is for some upstart company to come out of the blue and knock them out of the freaking throne seat. They don't want to get kicked out of that seat. They want to stay in that seat. They want to hold it down. They want to freaking strap themselves in with a nice seatbelt and just stay there permanently. They want to glue their ass to that seat is what they want to do. So Apple is right now the leader when it comes to market cap, and they are invested in this area. Microsoft, number 2. Microsoft, number 2, they have a market cap of over $2 trillion, a little bit over $2 trillion. A share of Microsoft on Friday closed $277.65. Google, we just mentioned them, $1.7 trillion market cap. I already talked about how expensive those shares are, but they're not. It's just they haven't split as much. There's not as many outstanding shares as maybe like Apple or something like that. So the price seems really high, but don't get caught up in that. Okay, now we get to Facebook, right? This is the number one play for everybody in VR and AR. Well, we'll get into this discussion in just a second here because you've got to also understand some other aspects of it. We'll get to that. But Facebook, just this last week, became a $1 trillion company, $1.006 trillion. A single share of Facebook, $354.70. Now, I am also, one other thing that I will mention as we go through this entire discussion, I will mention if I own shares in any of these companies. I will disclose it because I don't, and I can tell you on this list, I do not own any of these companies. Am I interested in companies on this list? Hell yes. Do I own any of them right now? No, I do not. Did I own any of these companies this year? Yes, I owned Facebook. And unfortunately, folks, so here's the thing. I don't remember what month it was, but Facebook, it was going up and it was going down and it was going up and it was going down. And there would be a time where you would have like a week where every day the stock market is kind of dropping and it's a sea of red. Everything is down. And it would happen for multiple days. And I was able to jump in on Facebook during one of these scenarios at $257 a share. It was beautiful. It was beautiful because like it had really slipped and I was like, holy smokes, Facebook is down to 257. And I bought some nice Facebook at 257. What happened? I sold it in the 280s and ended up going somewhere else. And look at it. It's $354.70. It's almost $100 up from where I purchased it at 257, but unfortunately, I'm not in it now. Now, there's also discussions we can get into as well about SIN stocks, S-I-N, SIN stocks like Philip Morris Tobacco Company or Smith & Wesson, or like Lockheed Martin or something, or, like these, the military industrial complex, tobacco, alcohol. You can think of certain gambling stocks. You can think of these things as SIN stocks. Some people don't want to invest in a SIN stock. Facebook could be considered a SIN stock. So could Google in certain ways. Why? The heavy-handed censorship. The censorship and the basic crowd psychology games and experiments that these companies are running is out of control in a certain way. But we're not going to get into that right now, but I'm just saying it's something to consider, so you might have some moral objections with investing in some of these companies. It's kind of ironic, honestly. We'll talk more about Facebook. Let me get through this list. Okay. So Samsung has a market cap of $326 billion. Here's the thing about Samsung, though. It's kind of interesting. So if you're in the United States and you want to invest in Samsung stock, not very easy, bro. It is not on the New York Stock Exchange. It's not on the NASDAQ. Now, what you can do if you want to buy Samsung stock is you can actually open up an account in the United Kingdom. You open up a stock account in the United Kingdom and you can buy Samsung on that stock market exchange. A single share of Samsung right now, $1,772. And why is Samsung on this list of platform holders in walled gardens? They don't really have a walled garden, right? Okay, well, I'm putting some companies on this list that might be contenders for the future. So, we're thinking about companies that could possibly get into the game and possibly be a disruptor in VR and AR. And I believe Samsung has the potentiality of doing this. Now, will they have this motivation? Like, will they be that ambitious to want to go head to head with like Apple and Microsoft and Google and Facebook and Sony and companies like this that have been established with walled gardens? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be willing to do it, and I don't know if they're going to be effective at doing it. But I did want to list them on here anyways. Okay, now we have Sony. Yeah, let's not forget about Sony. If you're going to be involved in the VR AR gaming worlds, or just in general, Sony is involved in this. Sony is investing in this. Sony believes in this in the long term. And so I think you've got it. They have their own walled garden. Obviously, PSN. It is a walled garden. They're selling VR games on that walled garden right now. So Sony has a market cap of $125.94 billion. A single individual share of Sony stock is $101.65. Okay, the next one, you might say 10 cent. What the hell is this doing? Like, this is the oddball of the group. Why is this in this list? Well, it's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. Epic Games. Epic Games, brah. Okay, I don't mess with Epic Games Store, but a lot of you do. Okay, now what isn't on this list, folks? We don't see Steam on this list. Why? Because Steam is a privately held company. Steam is not public, so you cannot buy stock in Steam. Well, Steam does have a competitor. It's called Epic Games Store. So why is Tencent on here? Tencent is on here because they own 40% of Epic Games. So they have a market cap of $711.72 billion. So why don't I have them listed right after Facebook? Well, because first of all, if you look at their market cap of $711 billion, how much of that market cap is really their 40% investment in Epic Games? I don't know. I don't know. So it's a percentage of that. But if you were long-term incredibly bullish on Epic Games Store being just an absolute juggernaut 15 years from now, you'd probably want to have an investment in Tencent, because I don't believe that, Epic Games is basically a private company. Tencent does have this 40% investment in them. And so if you wanted to have an investment in Epic Games Store, that's how you would have to do it. Okay, so I have Nintendo on this list as well. Nintendo's another interesting thing. If you want to try to get the stock doesn't move wildly in a lot of directions. It doesn't move up and down anywhere near as much as the top 4 companies on this list. Same thing with Samsung. Their stock doesn't move around wildly. Sony doesn't even move around very wildly. But I'm putting Nintendo on here. Why? Because Nintendo has been involved in augmented reality and virtual reality. They actually have. They've been involved in virtual reality and augmented reality. So, they've dipped their toes in the water. They're not really doing much of anything with it, but anything can happen. Some Nintendo Direct could come along and it could be bam, a big VR product that we had no idea. They could have a Quest competitor that could come out of completely nowhere, and it could be a huge effing factor. So I think we need to, add it in and consider it. So Nintendo, their market cap is $70 billion. Their stock is the equivalent of $73.46 per share. Okay, so the next one, HTC. HTC, the stock ticker symbol is 2498.TW. Yeah, it's a common ticker symbol, right? You punch those ticker symbols in all day long, right? Okay, so that is on the Taiwanese stock exchange, basically. HTC Corp is based out of Taiwan. They are on the Taiwan Stock Exchange, and that's how they do their ticker symbol. HTC's market cap is $31.804 billion. A single share of HTC is $38.85. So these are the various platform holders. Now, again, remember what I was saying before. I'm extremely interested in the comments of this episode, long term as well, of people that randomly come to this video, and then they might have some suggestions. So if you believe that there are some potential platform holders, major bangers, that are not, this is funny, Hussein X in chat says, all stocks on this list are going to skyrocket when markets open tomorrow. Actually, markets open on Tuesday. So Hussein X, get into it, bro. It's not open tomorrow. It's not open tomorrow. Oh, we've got a lot of different stock people that are in the game. I have made over 100K on my AMC and day trading calls. That's Kaylee Allen. Yeah, okay, so we do have some investors in the mix. Okay, yeah, I'm really interested in hearing your guys' suggestions after this is over. Okay, Game and Science Teacher says, is Google separate from Alphabet? No, I just didn't want to put Alphabet on there. I mean, yeah, when you're buying a share of Google, when you get it, it'll actually say Alphabet. Alphabet is technically the name of the umbrella organization that is what is Google now. So they're really Alphabet. I just didn't want to put that on here, but you pretty much will understand that when you buy a share of Apple. A share of Google. Okay, what was I saying? Now I got confused here because I went and looked at the chat. What I'm saying is some of you guys might have what I was looking for is if anybody had any other suggestions on companies that should be in this list. Okay, Slayblaze said, could probably add NVIDIA to that list. They kind of want a walled garden. Yeah, so NVIDIA is a company that I am planning on talking about quite a bit, actually, in this series of episodes. I didn't put them in the walled garden category, but if you wanted a dark horse company that could actually literally get into this game of being a platform holder, they're kind of a dark horse. It's interesting because normally you would think a company like NVIDIA does not bite the hand that feeds, okay? But this might be more for like a Qualcomm. Consider Qualcomm. And we're going to be talking about Qualcomm, we're going to be talking about TSM, we're going to be talking about AMD, we're going to be talking about NVIDIA, we're going to be talking about different screen manufacturers, we're going to be talking about all kinds of different manufacturers that have different parts, we're going to be talking about stuff like Rec Room Against Gravity, which is a privately held company, but we're going to talk about like Niantic, which is a privately held company as well, but eventually these companies might IPO. We're going to get into all kinds of stuff like this. But NVIDIA, yeah, they're a dark horse because here's the thing. They have it's not even secret really. They have research and development projects where they're working on MR glasses, they're working on VR glasses, they're working on AR glasses. They're involved in this. And normally you would say, well, you don't bite the hand that feeds. For example, Qualcomm, think of the Snapdragon chips. Think of every standalone VR and AR device in existence. Qualcomm's Snapdragon chips are in 99% of them. 99% of them. We know that Qualcomm has made various prototypes of like XR glasses and prototypes of VR headsets with 7 concurrent cameras and scene recognition and understanding and all kinds of amazing things. And so a lot of people would say, dude, why doesn't Qualcomm just go head to head with Facebook and be like, what's up, Facebook? We going head to head with that ass. Here's our freaking VR headset. We're about to take your ass down. Why don't they do that? Because they sell so many chips to Facebook. They sell so many chips to Apple, so many chips to all of these companies that why would they do that? Why would you bite the hand that feeds? Now, NVIDIA is in a slightly different scenario here because NVIDIA in the mobile space, NVIDIA's mobile chips have lost out mostly to Snapdragon and Qualcomm. And now NVIDIA does have their GPU in the Magic Leap 1. I'm not sure if they're going to be in Magic Leap 2, but their GPU is in the Magic Leap 1. And so NVIDIA's been involved, and NVIDIA can make a headset, either AR or VR or like a MR headset, a hybrid. They could do that. And, in terms of like biting the hand that feeds, they're not really doing that because they're not feeding any of these companies with like mobile chips for that specific reason. But indirectly, they would be kind of competing with some of these companies that they kind of partner with in other ways, Google, Microsoft, stuff like that. So yeah, NVIDIA is something to consider in terms of another company that could potentially be added to this category. JA says, I agree with NVIDIA. Heard they're trying to build a VR streaming service similar to GeForce Now. Yeah, and Kaylee Allen is doing some humble brags about how many shares of AMC and GameStop he's got. So there's that. Okay, but yeah, so these are the different companies. These are the platform holders, the walled gardens. Okay, now I wanted to bring up another potential thing to talk about here. So let me go ahead and switch off of this. And let's see, how do I want to go down this road? Let me go into, let's see, let's go into this. Oh, Oculus trailers, yeah. So I'll go ahead and let's grab this one. Okay, so one of the leading companies that a lot of people would consider investing in, if you're going to invest in VR and AR, the most obvious choice out there is Facebook. It is so effing obvious. There's no other company on planet Earth that is more pot committed to these different segments than Facebook. So you would think, oh my God, well, Facebook, they are completely dominating the standalone market. They have like 98% dominance over standalone VR headsets. They have the most established ecosystem of any VR company. They are building this gigantic library of entertainment titles, but also, video titles and educational things, documentary type things in VR. So they're building out this ecosystem where they have exclusive rights, and it's going to go off into the future. So they have such a lead over everybody. It's just simply ridiculous, right? So you would think, oh, this video could last 2 minutes. Buy Facebook. I'm done. Bye. See everybody later. Buy Facebook. Hold it for 7 years and tell me how things are going 7 years from now. But it's not that simple, ladies and gentlemen. And here's why it's not that simple. It's almost a huge effing negative. It's a huge effing negative, honestly, that Oculus is owned by Facebook from an investment standpoint. And I'm not talking about being anti-Facebook and all the shady stuff that they're into. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking just purely from financial investing. Here's why. Facebook is a $1 trillion company. Do you know that if you were to remove Oculus completely from Facebook, if you were to erase the existence of Oculus from Facebook completely, and a lot of people would love that alternate universe, if you were able to do that, Facebook is still a $1 trillion company. So here's the downside of just banking all your money in Facebook and saying, you know what, I am all in, I am balling, all in. I'm all in and I'm balling. It's all Facebook all day. All my money, all in Facebook. Everything's great. The problem with that strategy is that the VR and AR component of Facebook is such an incredibly tiny, microscopic sliver of the overall company. When you're buying Facebook, what you're really buying is the crown jewel. And the crown jewel, in my opinion, is Instagram. Instagram is the crown jewel. Now, here's the thing. Facebook makes more money from their advertising on Facebook proper. But Facebook proper, as an ecosystem, is slowly eroding. Now, they're adding users, and it's incredibly popular with boomers. Facebook is also very popular in foreign countries. But here in the USA, if you're 35 years or under, you're probably not using Facebook a lot, okay? You're using Instagram a lot. And so anyway, but that's a whole nother story. But the bottom line is Oculus is a sliver, a tiny little sliver of Facebook overall. So the problem that we get into this, so let's see, let's go over to our webinar for the day. And that's HTC stock right there. But let's go ahead and pop Facebook on the screen here. So Facebook's ticker symbol is FB. And you can see 354 bangers. You can see their market cap is a little bit over $1 trillion. Now, price to earnings ratio, this is a number that you should be aware of, which is, this is like how much the stock is compared to their earnings, price to earnings ratio. And then you have earnings per share. That's an important number. The earnings date for the company is a very important number. You can look at stuff like the 52-week range. Like Facebook in the last year has been as low as $226, as high as $358. So you can see that they're right at their freaking 52-week high. So if you were to buy Facebook right now, you are buying it at damn near the apex of what it's done in the last year. Like, I could switch this chart. This is a 1-year chart right here. And you would be buying it at damn near the apex. The apex is probably right at the top of this little peak right there. But that's basically Facebook. And I bought Facebook. Let's see. Well, if we make this chart bigger, if we go full screen here. Oh man, I gotta switch this up. Let's see, this is a 1 minute thing, so we'll go 1 day, and we'll go, yeah, year to date. Yeah, Facebook, I bought it probably, wow, where did I buy Facebook? Maybe it was around here. Yeah, I must have bought Facebook right around here, like 256, and I think I sold like in here or something. You know, so I bought it down here, sold in here. I was super happy about it, but it just kept going and going and going, and it's all the way up there. But one of the things I want to point out with an investment in a company like Facebook, the thing is, there could be like some major VR announcement. Like Facebook, Facebook announces that Oculus has sold 20 million Oculus 2 headsets. Now, if you're a huge, ginormous investor in Facebook and you're in Facebook 100% because of virtual reality and in the future augmented reality, and so you're all in on Facebook, and then an announcement comes out, Oculus has sold 20 million Oculus 2 headsets, it's record sales, the numbers are great. Is Facebook stock going to go from $354 to $500 that same day? No, it's not going to happen. That's the problem. We can go back to Microsoft, in fact. Microsoft, when they announced that partnership with the United States Army, for all those headsets for the military, the HoloLens 2 contract that Microsoft recently signed with the U.S. military. Do you know the day that happened, Microsoft stock went boop, boop, just like that, just a little tiny blip, like nothing. That's the problem. That's one of the problems with going after a lot of these behemoth corporations where virtual reality is the tiniest little sliver of what they're doing. And so in future episodes, we're not going to get into it today, but in future episodes about investing in VR and AR, we are going to talk about what I call pure plays. Pure plays, a pure VR play, a pure AR play. What do I mean by that? When I'm talking about a pure play, I'm talking about a company, all they do is VR. That's all they do. And so when VR has really good news, a pure play can double in a single day, where a company like Facebook, it's going to be a tiny blip. When the announcement comes that 20 million Oculus Quest 2 headsets have sold, Facebook might be up like $2 that day over that. So you have to consider that. But then again, if you have a really long-term time span, yeah, you're probably going to want to be in Facebook, because what you want to think about when it comes to these walled gardens, the number one thing that you want to think about, let's go back and grab our list here, is you want to think 15 years from now. 15 years from now, which one of these stocks is going to benefit the most? Which one of these stocks will have appreciated the most, 7 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Which one of these stocks will have appreciated the most from VR and AR? And I guarantee you some of these stocks will have appreciated dramatically. They will be making hundreds of millions of dollars a year in these different categories, maybe even billions of dollars a year in some of these categories. And their stocks will reflect that. These stocks will rise over time based on virtual and augmented reality success. But if you're looking more for if you're trying to invest for a year or 2 years, you might be a little bit disappointed in the fact that their success in a VR or AR category doesn't move the stock all that much. Then the other thing that you have to be concerned about as well is man, I put my entire life savings into Facebook because I'm all in on VR and AR, and Facebook is all in on VR and AR. I mean, they're all in, like they're pot committed, like they're fully invested in this. They've got 10,000 employees working on VR and AR. Like, it's ridiculous how much money, how much research and development money they're spending on that. But there could be other categories of the company that are major risk factors. For example, I was talking about Facebook advertising, and the thing is, Facebook is doing certain things with their numbers of concurrent users and active daily users on Facebook. It's declining, okay? It's declining. The active, just take Gary from VR Roundtable. Gary from VR Roundtable, Reckoner VR from VR Roundtable, left Facebook. That's an example of an acquaintance I know that maybe used Facebook a little bit, and is as far as I know, he mentioned one time, yeah, dude, I'm off Facebook. I'm not messing with Facebook anymore. There's a lot of people that are like that. And so a lot of people have left Facebook, but their daily users are growing. How is this possible? Well, it's foreign markets, it's boomers. The popularity with an older generation is increasing. The popularity with a younger generation is evaporating and eroding. But what did Facebook do recently that may have helped their numbers a little bit in this category? I mean, I know it's a drop in the bucket, but the requirement for Oculus 2, if you get a Quest 2, you are required to have a Facebook account. Well, if you don't think part of the reason for that is to force additional users into the Facebook ecosystem so they can say, yeah, we've added 8 million new Facebook users just in this year alone, due to the Oculus Quest 2. It's part of it. But the thing is, there's dangers here because the VR aspect of that company is so freaking tiny, these other ginormous aspects of the company could possibly bring the stock down if something really bad happened. For example, Facebook was in various, scenarios with litigation, with antitrust laws and stuff like that. Now, they recently won this most recent case, but I doubt that's going to be the last time they run into that. They're running into problems in the European Union with a lot of different laws and requirements that are there. So there's issues going on. So you have to be aware of all this. Oh, one other subject I did want to get into too is when you start investing in stocks, I think it's incredibly important that before you ever invest in stocks, here's one thing that you got to do, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go ahead and get a quick sip of this water. Okay. So what a lot of people do when they get involved in investing in the stock market is they think of the profit. They think of the profit. They think, okay, I'm going to buy 100 shares of Facebook. It's going to cost this much. And I believe 4 months from now, it's going to be $377 a share. I'm going to sell it and I'm going to make this much profit times 100. Yay, 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 yay. Most people, when they buy a stock, they are thinking of the profit. That is the wrong way to do it. It's the wrong way to do it. Here's what you actually want to do. What you actually want to do is you want to think about the worst case scenario. You want to think about the worst case scenario so that you're prepared for that. You want to know what the worst case scenario is, and then you want to ask yourself, I know that this worst case scenario has such an incredibly small chance of happening, but if it does, am I going to be able to sleep at night? Am I going to be able to live with myself? Am I going to be able to look myself in the mirror and respect myself after that? That's what you got to consider. You got to consider what is the worst case scenario. And so when it comes to virtual reality and augmented reality, what is the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is that these technologies are not the runaway train that I'm talking about. These technologies are not guaranteed to permeate every little aspect of human life. That these technologies could be a flash in the pan. That, 3D televisions, anybody? Do you guys remember 3D TVs? We could go back in time. When was the whole 3D TV craze? Do you guys remember that? I bought a 3D TV like right when they came out. I had a Panasonic Plasma 3D TV for a very brief period of time that cost crazy amounts of money. I ended up returning it and getting my money back. But back at the 3D TV time, there could have been people that could have been giving you the 3D TV is a runaway train. Man, 3D is a runaway train. I saw Avatar last night. The crowds were going around the block. I was talking to people in line going to Avatar. They've seen it 5 times already. Dude, it's all about 3D. Invest in 3D TVs. Invest in Panasonic. Invest in Samsung. Invest in Nvidia. It's all about 3D, man. Sony, they got 3D on the PlayStation 3. You want to invest in Sony. There's probably somebody that was saying some of these things back in 2008 or whatever year it was when 3D TVs was a thing. And 3D TVs have died a brutal death. The entire 3D thing basically died. So you want to think about the existential threat to virtual reality, the existential threat to augmented reality. Because if somebody back at that time was looking at 3D TVs and they thought about the existential threat, VR came out of nowhere, bro. I'm going to tell you guys, VR came out of effing nowhere. All right. I was on the meant to be seen forums where Palmer Luckey was, and I wasn't paying attention to the shit that he was doing. I was looking up other shit that had to do with like a Samsung Plasma or a Panasonic Plasma or this 3D TV software that, that you could use on your computer, like a Vorp X type thing and shit like that, and different Tomb Raider games that were running in 3D, and Pacific Rift on PlayStation 3 that was running in 3D and stuff like that. And the thing is, virtual reality, like the last time I had heard of virtual reality, it was in the 90s with the freaking Atari Jaguar, with Sega, with virtuality and these different things that happened in the 90s. It died off completely. It seemed dead as a doornail. Nobody was thinking anything about virtual reality. 3D TVs seemed like the big thing. And guess what? 3D TVs died completely, basically. And now we have VR. And so you have to think virtual reality. What problem is virtual reality solving? And what virtual reality is solving is this desire to be completely immersed in entertainment. We've always had this desire. I mean, we've always been interested in being entertained. You go back to like silent movies, and then you go back to like, talkies, and now we have color, and now we have this, and now we have that. Now, widescreen. And now we have Technicolor, and now we have this, and now we have DVDs, and now we have Blu-rays. We're always interested in being entertained, and we want it to like completely envelop us and just get lost in the freaking experience. That is the problem that VR is solving. You want to get completely lost in an experience, and VR does that. Now, there's a lot of other things that VR can do. It can help with like designing, like there's some helicopter company that apparently saved millions of dollars in designing a new helicopter just by using VR, because they could do prototyping and they could do different things that normally would take them like a year, and they were able to do it in a month. So VR is going to have all kinds of use case scenarios, but it really comes down to being completely enveloped in entertainment. And so you have to ask yourself, is there a threat? Is there something else that can supersede virtual reality and surround us in entertainment in a better way that would basically kill VR dead? Okay. Now, there is a danger, ladies and gentlemen. I will show you real quick, what this danger could be. An example of a danger like this. So holograms. Holograms are a thing that could happen at some point in the future, right? We've got these different type of looking glass displays and things like that. So if I was to think about an existential threat to virtual reality long term, what would it be? The only thing that I can really come up with is that eventually we can have little holographic projectors. So right now in my room, I've got 4 different Oculus cameras that are on my ceiling for my Rift CV1. And I can envision, 20 years from now, these little cameras could be little projectors that are projecting a holographic image where somebody sits in a chair or something. They're sitting in a chair, and then all this shit is all around them in a hologram. I'm not sure how the hell it's going to work. I don't know if you're going to have some kind of misting system that slowly has mist fall down. And then these little holographic projectors are projecting onto the mist. And you see things, and it's like you're watching Avengers 12, and it's freaking completely surrounding you, and it's going all over you, and Captain America's shield is flying right over your head. You're like, whoa, bro. And you don't have to wear anything. You don't have to be sweaty. Nothing has to be on top of you. So I would say holograms are the biggest potential threat. Some type of advanced holographic technology is the biggest potential threat to virtual reality. But the question you have to ask yourself is there going to be a viable product from this category that is really going to get into the mix in the next 20 years and be a major disruptor? And I would say no. I'm not saying it can't happen. Things change dramatically, especially we have artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, we have all this stuff going on. Something could happen that could really change the game, and there could be some gigantic breakthrough that could happen. But even in the scenario that I'm talking about here, right now we're talking about existential threats to virtual reality. Is virtual reality a runaway train? And can anything possibly stop it? And so I'm talking about this holographic projection idea. So even in this scenario where, you have these 4 little holographic projectors, you have a system of mist that comes down and it projects onto the mist somehow. And by the time the mist touches the ground, it evaporates. So you don't have a problem with your floors getting jacked up. Even if there was that kind of technology, it's kind of you got to put a projector here, you got to put a projector there, you got to have a big space. But VR kind of needs a space. But also VR now, it's going to become spatially aware. So that's not going to be as much of a problem anymore. So really, when I think of existential threats to virtual reality, there are some potentially, but I don't really see it as being super viable. Okay, now let's also talk about augmented reality. What do we think about existential threats to augmented reality? And this is actually even better, ladies and gentlemen. It is even better, because what is augmented reality? What problem is augmented reality solving? The problem that augmented reality is solving is the ability for you to walk around in your natural environment and have the ability to have use of a smartphone or a desktop computer without actually having a smartphone or a desktop computer, without sitting at a table using a keyboard and a monitor and using your computer there at that particular table in that particular location, or pulling out a smartphone, holding it, looking down at it, having in your hands. Okay, so the idea of walking around naturally, having your hands completely free to do whatever you want to do, but still having these augmented reality glasses on your head and being able to do all kinds of things with your augmented reality. Spatial computing is the future. That is the breakthrough technology when it comes to augmented reality. And when I try to think of an existential threat to augmented reality, it's very difficult to think of one. Like what somebody could say is, oh, I know what the existential threat is to augmented reality. It's contact lenses, man. Contact lenses will be even better than glasses. No, that is augmented reality, dumbass. That is augmented reality. It's just like the best form of it and the least irritating form potentially of it. That is augmented reality. That is not an existential threat. That is just augmented reality getting better and smaller and more lightweight and more unobtrusive, right? So if you want to think of an existential threat to augmented reality, you practically have to go down the Neuralink road, all right? You would have to go down the Neuralink road to try to find something that is going to knock augmented reality completely out of the box. So I really wouldn't worry about that too much because let's face it, Neuralink, I was just watching a video on Neuralink last night. In fact, it was like this, somebody was doing a discussion about Neuralink and how it's going to change everything, blah, blah, blah. It's going to take so effing long for that whole thing to unravel, people putting chips in people's brains. It is going to start out in people, that have spinal cord injuries, people that have brain injuries. It is going to be such a slow burn to get to the future point in time when you can literally go down the street to a Neuralink center and have a Neuralink popped into your brain for $3,000 like you're getting LASIK surgery. That future is so far away. And then even when that future does arrive, the actual reality that they're going to overtake your like visual cortex and all of that and just completely nah, man. I mean, it still would have to do all the spatial reality stuff in terms of like, that's the other play that is involved here, folks. Let's go ahead and go back. I know I'm a little bit all over the map, but the thing is I'll think of some other angle and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a very important angle to talk about. So we're going to talk about augmented reality for a quick second here, because almost every one of these companies on this list, they're all involved in augmented reality. We know that Apple is more interested in augmented reality and VR. We know that. Microsoft has bet 100% on augmented reality. Do we have a lot of Microsoft VR products? No. Were they the first ones all in on augmented reality with the original HoloLens? Do you remember the original HoloLens demo that was at E3 with like Minecraft and stuff? How many years ago was that? Microsoft is very much in on augmented reality. Then we have a company like Google. Now, a lot of people might think Google? Why is Google on this list? Once bitten, twice shy, and these fools were twice bitten or thrice bitten. You look at Google Glass, failure. What is it called? God, what's their dream thing called? I'm completely, brain fart. I forget what their VR thing, dream something. That failed, and then basically everything that Google has gone into in augmented and their $500 million investment in Magic Leap, poof, gone. They invested $500 million in Magic Leap. But I'll tell you what, Google, if you think Google has given up on AR or VR, you are so mistaken. It's not even close. They have not given up. They've had some problems, and yeah, do they cut and run quick? They cut and run quick, but they're not giving up on VR or AR. Google is going to be very involved in that. Facebook is involved in AR. We know Facebook wants to get even more involved in AR. They're kind of a little bit late to the party. They went all in on VR early, where Microsoft went all in on AR, and now Facebook's trying to catch up and get into VR as well. Samsung. We saw some kind of Samsung video with like AR glasses that leaked a little while ago. Sony hasn't really made any noise in the AR world, but we know that they're going to be involved at some point. Nintendo's already been involved in AR. I'm sure HTC is looking into AR at some point as well. So AR is going to be a factor. But one of the major things that I wanted to mention right here is this idea of spatial computing. Like, what is the next generation of computing? Like, we had desktop computing and then it went to mobile phones. Like, where's the next thing? And that's where augmented reality comes in, because basically we had these big bulky computers, right, that had to be fixed. They had to be on a desk somewhere with a keyboard and a monitor, so you had to go over there to use the computer. So the big revolution was, now we got a little computer that we take with us everywhere and we can pull it out. We got a little computer that we use. So the next big revolution is not having to take anything out of anything, just wearing something on our head, and the computer is the world that we are in. The augmented reality, and so it's spatial mapping. Basically, Roni Abovitz from Magic Leap, he talks about this, and he has a very pie-in-the-sky vision of all of this, and yeah, they were about 6 years too early, and yeah, Magic Leap was a complete and utter failure. When you really get down to it, they couldn't miniaturize their breakthrough technology that they had. That's why Google invested $500 million in them, because they did have a breakthrough technology. They just unfortunately never could miniaturize it. So they created a Me Too HoloLens project, which was known as Magic Leap 1, yada, yada, yada. But the thing is, this spatial computing idea, this is huge. And this is why this is why you do not want to underestimate Google. Because is anybody further along in basically mapping the entire effing world? Mapping the entire known world three-dimensionally and being able to deliver that. Now, Microsoft Azure, right? Microsoft Azure, edge computing, delivering from the cloud. All of this stuff is going to be mission critical when we get into the spatial computing future, where you're walking down the street and all these things are popping up. Like, of course, you could turn a lot of this shit off. We're going to want to turn a lot of this shit off. But you're like, you just think in your head, where's the nearest Starbucks? And then nearest Starbucks, 3 blocks that way, turn left on Marshall Street, turn right on Broadway. There's Starbucks. The spatial computing future is going to be incredible. And so the company that best delivers that experience is probably going to win this AR world in terms of like the true dominance. And if you really want to bet on a corporation going down that road, it's pretty hard to bet against Google right about now, because like you can just look at like Google Street View and stuff like that, and you can explore places, you can zoom in on stuff. Dude, there's a reason those little trucks are driving all around every neighborhood, taking pictures of everything. They're eventually going to build it out where it's going to be completely spatial. You're going to be able to wear your headsets, VR or AR, and be able to tour any location, crystal clear, high definition. It's going to be great. And the different things that this is going to open up for businesses, for commerce, ecosystems, it's going to be incredible, right? So you got to remember about this spatial computing aspect of it. It's going to be a big factor. I just that popped into my head, so I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, so what we're thinking about right now is we're talking about these platform holders, these walled gardens, and where you'd want to bet in. Okay, and so we can go down the list and cover a bunch of these individual companies really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back over here. And so let's start with the smallest market cap of the bunch, which is HTC. So I'm going to click on HTC really quick. And so, it's interesting about HTC, right? We have inside knowledge of HTC. We know that it's a poorly managed company. Like, this company is not managed very well at all. Yet, if you look at their 1-year chart, hold on. It's going a little slow here. Okay, we got it on 1 day. Let's go ahead and go year to day. Okay, so this is HTC's 1-year chart. And if you can see over here, company was not doing all that great for quite some time. In fact, I remember we had some episodes on VR Roundtable where we literally talked about the possibility of HTC going completely under. There were people that were mentioning that the amount of money that HTC had, the number of employees that they had, that it was not sustainable. I remember, I think it might have been like 2018, and people were saying by the fourth quarter of 2020, HTC would be completely bankrupt. Well, obviously that didn't happen, but it was pretty bad. You can see down here, got way down here. The low back on March 15th, 2020, of course, this is COVID, $27 a share. And, so HTC has come way down from where it was way up here, $63 a share back on April 11th, 2018. So it cratered quite a bit. And, but you can see it's ran up. Ran all the way up into the $44 range, plummeted back down here into the low 32s. This was just in May, went back up. So it's been a little bit wild. But I believe that this explosion right here, this explosion that you're seeing right here, is kind of the world recognizing that, oh yeah, HTC is involved in VR, and there's a lot of investors that are like, I really want to get involved in VR. But how do I invest in VR? And some of these investors would look at something like Facebook and they'd be like, yeah, but God damn it, Facebook is this ginormous behemoth. It's a ginormous behemoth and it's such a tiny sliver what Oculus is. If I invest in HTC, VR is a bigger part of HTC now and I can get a bigger benefit. And so HTC did run up quite a bit. It has benefited quite a bit there. But I honestly, personally, I would not be investing in this company if I were you, but it's a company that could rise considerably just based on the overall VR thing in general, because basically Facebook is Coca-Cola. So people want to know, okay, well, what's the Pepsi? And right now, this would be the closest Pepsi because we don't have Samsung that's really in this game. Sony's in the game, but they're in the game from a console standpoint with a peripheral. Do we want to talk about peripherals again? I don't think we do, right? So anyway, HTC is one of these competitors. It's one to consider, but I'm not really too bullish in that. Then we'll talk about Nintendo real quick. Let's see, do I have Nintendo on here? Yeah, so Nintendo stock, like if we look at this flat line here of Nintendo stock, doesn't move a hell of a lot. Okay, now we're looking at a 6-month chart. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I got to switch over here. Yeah, so I was looking on, this is Nintendo, and I was saying, look at this like flat line. This was just on, I guess this was like Friday or whatever, the last time it traded. And, not a ton of movement with Nintendo stock. It's not too wild. It's not quite like Tesla, right? So this is a 6-month chart of Nintendo. And let's look at like a 1-year chart. Okay, let's go to 5 years. So it not a ton of movement. It's going up and down, but you can see over time it has appreciated. You go way back here in 2017, $26. It got up here to the 80s. So you do have Nintendo as well. So what about Nintendo? Is Nintendo a factor? Should we even be talking about Nintendo in this? Well, I think you got to mention them because they've got these properties that when they are converted to VR and when they make the right type of VR product, and you got to know that Nintendo, all of these video game companies, they look at the Oculus Quest 2. They cannot ignore this. Nintendo has dabbled, Nintendo Labo VR. They've dabbled with AR as well, with Pokemon Go. And so they've dabbled with some of this stuff. They could get involved at some point in the future. But if you do invest in them, do not expect your stock to be doubling and tripling year over year and things like that. That's probably not going to happen. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to our list here. So HTC, Nintendo, 10 cent. Okay, let's take a quick look at 10 cent. 10 cent, the nice thing about investing in them as well is they're involved in a whole lot of shit. All right, Tencent is involved in a lot. Let's go ahead and take a look at their 6-month chart here. So you can see Tencent has actually come off of their highs. So in February of this year, trading up in the $99 range, and you could have recently bought them at like $74, quite a bit of a dip, $73. We're just looking at these dips here. One way to look at stocks too is you want to take a look at like the way these stocks move up and down. And sometimes you can see that they continually bottom at a certain place. They find resistance at another place. They bottom, they find resistance. This chart, not super easy to predict on this one. But yeah, Tencent, the reason we have some interest in this is if you were to be interested in Epic Game Studio as a long-term play, Tencent does have a 40% stake. So you might want to pay a little attention to that. Okay, let's take a look at Sony. So Sony, like if you're going to invest in Sony for the long-term future of AR and VR, you can see their stock is not very wild either. There's not a ton of wild movement, but if we look at a 6-month chart, you can see, Sony was down here in the $92 range, way back here. In February, they were up at 116, so they're kind of floating around there. We look at a 1-year chart. Back here, October 19th of last year, you could have grabbed it at $72 and you could have unloaded in the 116s. Not too shabby. 52-week range, you can see $68 up to $118. Sony, the thing about Sony though, honestly, I'm not even in the right window. Sorry guys. Okay, so I'm over here. This is Sony. The thing about Sony, like I'm disappointed in Sony. I got to admit it. Like if I was, I'm glad I don't have a lot of shares of Sony, because when they decided to go with a wired headset as a peripheral for PlayStation VR 2, I think it is so incredibly short-sighted. I know people are going to disagree with me. I know PlayStation fans are going to disagree with me. I know PlayStation 5 owners are going to disagree with me. But it's one of these things. It's like, we talk about the standalone market, and Facebook has 98% control of the standalone market. And I know that Sony doesn't want to go head-to-head with that, because goddamn, that is so scary to go head-to-head with such a dominator. You're just going to get smoked, right? But the thing is, you cannot ignore that monster that is just ravaging the forest. You're on the beach, and you think you're going to be okay on the beach. But did you see the TV show Lost? They were on the beach. The smoke monster was in the forest. Smoke monster is eventually coming for that ass. And so Sony decided not to go with a standalone. They decided not to go down that road. So it's hard for me to be extremely bullish in Sony from that standpoint, because I just think they took the wrong route. And, they're going to be on this road for 5 years with the decision they made. Like when they finally realize and they finally course correct, Facebook is going to be like on Quest 5 at that point. I don't know. But Sony, like from a screen standpoint, like their screen technology. The other thing is there's a company called JDI, which is Japanese Display Initiative. And I don't think they're public though. I think JDI is private, but I think Sony has a large stake in JDI. Let me see, JDI, Japan Display Inc., but I don't know that this is like actually JDI. I don't know if this is like the same company. Let's see. Japan Display Inc. designs, develops, produces, and sells small and medium-sized display devices in Japan and internationally, LCDs. I don't know if this is like, I don't know if this is the JDI that I'm thinking of. But yeah, Sony does own them. And, from a screen technology standpoint, from a hardware standpoint, I could see owning Sony in this category. But, yeah, I don't know. Okay. No, I do not own any Sony stock. Right now, Chris Chris Richardson says, does that mean you do have some Sony stock? No, I do not have any Sony stock. I will let you guys know if I have any stock in any of these companies that I'm talking about. I think it's kind of like almost a requirement for me to do that. By the way, I should probably do my little financial disclaimer thing real quick, just again to cover my ass. So let me go ahead and do this financial disclaimer thing real fast. Okay, I am not a certified financial planner, advisor, nor a certified financial analyst. I'm not an economist, nor a CPA, nor an accountant, or even a frigging lawyer. I'm not a finance professional through formal education. I learned my education in the back streets of Buenos Aires. No. The contents of this video are for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial accounting or legal advice. I cannot promise that the information shared in this video is appropriate for you or anyone else. By watching this video, you agree to hold me harmless from any ramifications, financial or otherwise, that occur as you lose your entire life savings in Sony Corp. Just kidding. Agree to hold me harmless from any ramifications, financial or otherwise, that occur to you as a result of acting on information mentioned in this video. Yes, I am not a financial advisor, and that is that. Okay, so back to our list here. So we just talked about Sony. Okay, so let's go to Samsung. So let me put in Samsung, SMSN. Oh, you know what? Can I look it up on this? Yeah. Okay, buying stock in Samsung, not easy, ladies and gentlemen, if you are living in the United States of America. So here's Samsung. If you open up a UK account, it's easier to buy Samsung, I believe. Let's see. So I'm trying to look at chart. Okay, so here's Samsung chart. We can take a look at the 1-year chart when this loads up. But yeah, an individual share of Samsung, $1,772. It's taking an awful long time for this to load up. Let's see, year to date, 6 months. None of these charts want to load up. Might not be able to get charts on this because it's not really like you would almost have to go to a UK website that has Samsung on it. But Samsung, I still believe these guys are an interesting possibility here. Like, they're really good with their screen technology. We've already seen that. My biggest worry with Samsung, though, is can they create a walled garden that anybody would give a rat's ass about? That's the real question, because they are... Oh, you know what? Let's go back to HTC. Can I get back to HTC? What was HTC again? Let's see, back here. HTC is 2498 TW. Okay, 2498. I forgot to mention something about HTC. 2498 TW. Okay, so going back to HTC, there is something I forgot to mention, folks. And you guys know what that is, right? Viveport, baby. They do have an incredible product in Viveport. This idea of Viveport, I think, is an incredible idea. And if they had the right kind of headset that can go with it and paired with Viveport, they could potentially be the Pepsi to Facebook's Coke. The problem is, they don't have the hardware that really supports it in an economical fashion. They can't compete with Facebook on price. There's just no effing way. They can't compete with Facebook on technical design, like the engineers and stuff like that. So, man, I mean, but I did want to mention, I just forgot to mention Viveport, because that is the one effing feather in their cap. That is the one thing that they do have going for them, and I forgot to mention that. But I still would stay away from HTC personally. But yeah, I did forget to mention that. Okay, so anyway, we were talking about Samsung. Yeah, so Samsung, like I was saying, I do believe that Samsung could potentially get into this game. My biggest worry with them, I think they could design a cool headset. I don't know about like their controller design. Like they just don't have the experience in this game. So Samsung would be a big time dark horse. But if you were looking for somebody to come out of nowhere and possibly capture a big chunk of market cap, could possibly be Samsung. Okay, now let's get to Facebook. Okay, yeah, so Facebook, again, you know, this is what? The number one play that you could possibly have in the VR game and the AR game. There is no other company that is more pot committed. They are a $1 trillion company. The biggest downside with Facebook is the fact that their the VR and AR component of their business is microscopic. When you compare all their businesses out there, Oculus makes up such a tiny percentage. And so the worry that you have, like, so somebody's going to buy Facebook, right? Let's say you're going to buy Facebook. For example, I'm actually very interested in buying some Facebook. I don't own it right now, but I did own some Facebook earlier this year. Like I told you, I bought it at like $257 and I sold it like $280 something. So the question is, let's say that, oh, I got to switch over to this window here. Okay, so let's say that you wanted to get in on a company like Facebook. There's probably a lot of people that are going to watch this video at some point in the future and they're going to be like, yeah, I want to go in on Facebook. I understand. Yeah, okay, I understand it's just a tiny sliver of the company, but god damn it, they're pot committed, they're all in, I want to get in on some Facebook. So what do you do? How do you get in on this company? When do you buy and stuff like that? Well, you want to try to look at the chart. This is the chart that we're looking at right here. Let's go to like 3 months. Okay, and we can zoom this out a little bit. So you can see that it's ran all the way up here. So it's really been on a tear. And so you can think, well, you know, if it comes back off of these highs, we can look at this little candlestick right here. This little candlestick was on June 21st. You can see the low of the day was 327.65. So like if I really wanted to get into Facebook really bad, and I didn't want to take too long, what you could do is you could have a strategy. See this area right here? This area right here, 329.15. See where all these little wicks of these candlesticks are touching right here at like 329 something, like, you know, 330-ish basically. So basically 330. So if you wanted to get on Facebook, one strategy would be is you try to wait for the market to have a number of down days, a number of red days, a number of days where everybody's like, oh shit, inflation, the job numbers, you know, the unemployment numbers are spiking again, Delta variant, blah, 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 you know what I mean? And so the market starts tumbling off of inflation, or the Fed might raise interest rates or whatever. When that happens, you probably will be able to buy Facebook at about 329. And so that's where you could get in. Now, if you want to get really aggressive, and if you want to think, okay, the market could take a real huge dip, you might be able to get in all the way down in this range right here. You see this range right here? So maybe 310-ish, 305, you know, and then it would take a quite large market correction to get back into like this kind of consolidation range. This is where I bought Facebook. It was like 257 something. This is where I got in, and I wrote it basically up here, and then I jumped out. I probably jumped out on this candlestick right here, to be honest, folks. Probably jumped out here way too early. And then when it jumped back down here, I should have jumped back in, should have sold right here, should have bought right here, should have sold right here, should have bought right here, should have sold right here. But, you know, you're trying to predict the future. Like, that's the thing. It's easy to look at this chart later and be able to look at these things, but to try to, or you just hold long term. You just buy it and hold it for 2 years. I mean, that's another strategy as well. So yeah, Facebook is a great play. Like, if you're going to be invested in VR and AR for the long term, you absolutely must own Facebook. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you might want to be invested in additional companies as well, because, again, of the factor that it is just such a tiny sliver of their overall company. But there will be a time when, like, you're watching CNBC or something, and it was just announced today, virtual reality might be a $5 trillion market by blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, a lot of people are rushing to buy Facebook. And Facebook, in other news, Facebook is up 9% today. You know, there could be something like that. You know, so you could get a bit of a bounce like that. Okay, so we're going to go back to our list here. Google. Okay, so let's go back. Let's check out Goog. Goog, brah. And Google, like, dude, if you're not invested in Google, what are you doing? I mean, of course, I don't have any of these companies right now. I wanted to buy Google. I was looking to buy Google when it was about 2,100, and I didn't end up doing it. But I wanted to buy Google about 2,100. So let's go ahead and check out a chart here. Okay, so we're on 1 day, and let's go like 6 months. Okay, so yeah, you can see Google. Honestly, Google in the year of 2021, there was a lot of stagnation in Google. You know, like if we look at not year to date, but like if you look at right here, like look at this range, like it was really stuck in this range for a long time, gapped up, got into this range. It was stuck here for a long time. This was a long time, man. Because I remember I got into the market in February, and Google's one of my all-time favorite companies, period, dot. I mean, there's problems with them, right? Okay. You could call them a sin stock as well. Look at YouTube, this actual platform that I'm on right now. There are programs, there are videos that have been deleted off YouTube as being like misinformation or like conspiracy theory type shit that was straight up real legitimate scientists that know what the F they're talking about. I could say a word right now that starts with an I, and this video will be freaking shadow banned like a mofo. I'm curious if anybody in chat knows what I'm talking about. A word that starts with an I, okay? A word that starts with an I that will get this video, like this video will be shadow banned. I doubt this video will be like deleted or anything, but like this video, like their algorithm will be like, oh shit, said the I word, you know, shadow ban this mofo. Like this video will be hidden as hell. You'll have to type in the exact title of this video to get to it. So like there's a lot of heavy-handed censorship, and there's also like crowd psychology experiments that are happening. And Google, you know, their motto used to be like, don't be evil. And that's the worst motto to have. Their motto is don't be evil. You're already thinking negative, like don't do that. No, you don't want to ever say, don't do that. You want to say, do this. You don't want to say, don't smoke crack. No, you want to say, exercise, you know? You don't want to talk about the bad thing. It was like, don't be evil. And so it's like, don't be evil. Don't be evil. Don't be evil. Be evil. Be evil. 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 And now we delete everybody's videos when we say the I word. Clay bomb, no, you're pretty close though. It's not that one, but there is something that starts with an I that will get your ass deleted real quick. But yeah, so Google, when I got back into investing this year, it was in February, early February, I got back into the mix, and Google was one of these companies I was watching like a hawk, and I noticed, wow, this is trading in such an incredibly narrow range. It's like going nowhere. This might seem like a short period of time. This was not a short period of time. This was like February all up into like freaking March, you know, February, March, almost into April before it finally gapped up here, and then we got this new level. So one thing to look at when you're looking at stock charts is basically this type of thing right here. This is called consolidation. This is when a stock starts trading in a relatively narrowish kind of a range. And if you want to do something called swing trading, so in chat, somebody mentioned about, Mepper says, remember, short-term investment taxes are a killer and can eat up a significant amount of gains. Yeah, there is something to know that if you get involved in investing, there is capital gains. There's short-term capital gains and there's long-term capital gains. Now, short-term capital gains typically means whatever profit that you make in short-term capital gains is typically taxed as basically regular income. So it just counts as regular income. So if your regular income tax rate is like 28%, then you're going to pay 28% taxes. Now, if you make hardly any money and you can keep your overall money that you're making like under 40,000, you could be at a really low tax rate, even though it's short-term capital gains, because you're just not making that much money overall. So you could still, but then you start making more money, then you're going to get bumped into a new tax bracket. Long-term capital gains can be 0%, 15%, and 20%. So there's a cap at 20% for long-term capital gains. This is why there is a big advantage to buying a stock and holding it for an entire year, because you also give the chance for the stock to do its thing. Sometimes if you get into swing trading, for example, like let's say you were swing trading Alphabet right here. You're swing trading Alphabet. You bought it on November 4th. You got it at the low, which, 1706. And then here on December 3rd, you dumped it for 1824. You made a nice little gain there. But yeah, you're going to be paying pretty high taxes on that. Where if you just held, you held, and then you're way the hell up here. But one reason that you might want to be in Google, though, is like, okay, so let's go ahead and go back over here. Because like a lot of people are like, oh, Daydream. Yeah, Daydream was the name of the freaking thing that they had. I know it was Dream something. I was thinking of like Dreamcast. I couldn't think of the goddamn name. Okay, so here's a reason to be in Google, guys. Volumetric video, ladies and gentlemen. Volumetric video. See, we have not had the video revolution of VR. Like, it hasn't even happened yet. We don't have the video revolution. That's the thing. A lot of people that have written off VR already and said, yeah, I thought VR might be the next big thing, but we haven't even had the video revolution yet, bro. Like, when you go back to high definition TVs, and when high definition first started, the revolution that happened off of that. And I remember when high definition first began. I remember the early days of high definition. And it is a really slow burn, because basically all of the content creators have to change all of the kind of equipment that they're using to start recording their videos and start producing videos in a new way. But you want to talk about a game changer. You want to talk about trillion-dollar markets and stuff. Just imagine sports and entertainment and concerts and movies and all kinds of videos when everything goes 3D, volumetric, and it's like you're there and it's like you're completely surrounded in the experience. And see, Google, they might be a little further along in this department than most other companies. I know Intel was also heavily involved in this a while back. Intel, by the way, the stock, has been kind of shitty for a while. But Intel kind of backed off on that. I remember, what was it? Was it the 2018 Consumer Electronics Show? It was all voxels, and they had this like gigantic studio, and they were showing like these cowboys, and it was like zzz, Matrix, because it's filmed by like 1 million cameras and everything, volumetric video, light fields. We have not had this revolution yet, ladies and gentlemen. Google is involved in it. Also, Google, you want to think about like, okay, first of all, YouTube is a freaking monopoly like none other. So, like, owning Google is like owning Disney 40 years ago, because they are running the show. Like, YouTube is the future. I have kids and people that they don't watch any regular TV. They don't watch, all they watch is YouTube all day, 24/7. YouTube. A complete and utter monopoly, right? Then you've got quantum computing. and you've got artificial intelligence. What are the chances that Google will not be one of the top 5 companies in artificial intelligence? Incredibly slim. What are the chances Google will not be one of the top 5 companies in quantum computing? Incredibly slim. So Google is a major player. Now, the problem with Google, though, is hardware. The problem is they cut so quick. They cut their losses quicker than day traders. I mean, these fools just abandon shit. Like the Google graveyard, like all the products they've abandoned over the years. I mean, they'll try something for a little while and they're like, oh, hell no, let's quit. Let's scrap it, start over from scratch. But they do have their walled garden. They've got their Android store. And so they're not going to want to let Facebook just control everything. They're not going to want to let Apple control everything. So Google is going to be in the mix as well. Okay, so anyway, let's go over here and let's get back to our list, because I did want to go through each one of these big giant behemoths that we are talking about, platform holders and walled gardens that could potentially dominate in virtual reality and augmented reality. Okay, Microsoft. This is a great one. Microsoft is very misunderstood when it comes to both VR and AR. What is this company doing? Why do they hate VR? Why do they love AR? And are they going to be a factor here? Okay, so Microsoft, over the years, I mean, here's a company. I owned shares of Microsoft in the 90s. And it's a great company to have held for long term. This company right here, Microsoft, you can get into this stock and it's almost like a savings account. It's almost like a savings account because, okay, so this dip, this was probably COVID. Yeah, COVID, baby. In March when the COVID happened, like if you look at Google, Apple, all of them, you're all going to see the same dip that happened right there. What a freaking buying opportunity that was, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, Microsoft is almost like a high yield savings account. They pay a dividend. Their stock doesn't appreciate super dramatically, but it's steady but slowly surely climbs. But yeah, you can look at this chart here and you can see it drops down here, it goes up here, it drops down here, it goes up here, it drops down here. When you see these ranges like this, the nice thing is what you can do is you can buy in, like if you're going to swing, you buy at support, you sell at resistance. You buy at support, you sell at resistance. You buy at support, you sell at resistance. Rinse and repeat. The problem with this is you buy at support, you sell at resistance, and then you're out of the stock, and then it freaking shoots up like a mofo, and you're freaking bonage.com. You're out of the stock. That can happen as well. That's why it can be better. Oh, I'm not even in the wrong window. Damn it, I'm in the wrong window. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so this is Microsoft Corp. You can see. So Microsoft, let's talk about Microsoft and VR and AR. So a lot of people believe that Microsoft has no interest whatsoever in VR. And I disagree with this. Yes, they did bet on AR. AR is their bet. But have you guys seen this video here? Okay, this is Microsoft research. It's on YouTube. And basically, they're saying that this user is just, they're walking along in a campus. They're just walking normally. And then they're showing what the user is seeing. So basically, this is this idea where you're just freely walking. But what's going on here with this research project is spatial mapping in real time, like understanding walls, understanding pathways. This is kind of that future that I was talking about again. This is where Google, remember Magic Leap with the magic verse and all this stuff, the idea that you can completely map reality. And there will be a day, I mean, it's not going to be that far away, where somebody could be walking around city streets and everything they see has been skinned with Star Wars, or skinned with Marvel, or skinned with Lord of the Rings or whatever. Or, they're walking down a busy street and everybody walking by is a freaking anime character and shit. That future is going to happen because basically the spatial computing is going to understand where all these people are. It's going to understand where the buildings are. And then everybody that has one of these headsets, it's going to be sending information to the cloud. So it's going to be constantly updating. So you might have walked by a business that is now completely boarded up and it's been shut down, but you're walking by it in virtual reality and it's all like it's open and everything's good. But what's going to happen is there's going to be constant updating. Information is going to be constantly going into the cloud that's going to be updating their model of the 3D world, much like Tesla. The Tesla cars report back to the mothership, and then the machine learning takes advantage of all this data that's coming in and it updates it, and it keeps updating it, keeps expanding it, keeps refreshing it. And that's going to happen with VR and AR headsets as well, with people just walking out in reality. Every square inch of this world is going to be meticulously mapped and constantly updated. And the reason this is going to happen is because of what it's going to potentially do for commerce and in all kinds of different areas. See, it can guide you to a location. It's showing right here, you know, guiding you to a location. But this is a VR experiment that they're doing here. And so, yeah, Microsoft hasn't been involved, you know, with the Xbox. Everybody's wondering, you know, why doesn't Microsoft get VR for the Xbox? Well, honestly, has Microsoft suffered? Have they suffered dramatically with not having VR in the Xbox? No. You can honestly make an argument that Microsoft made the right call. Like, how much money, it would be interesting to know how much money Sony has spent on research and development, grand total, for the entire Project Morpheus thing. From the very beginning, like every penny they have ever spent on research and development, every penny they have ever spent getting this company to make a game, that company to make a game, building out their ecosystem, advertising the games, sending the boxes, you know, to GameStop, and then having people return shit and the whole freaking thing, and then having people call the 1-800 number. I've got like 28 wires going 28 different ways. I've got this processing box. I don't know what I'm doing. The HDMI cable should go here. This should go there. You know, what do I do? My Move controllers aren't rumbling anymore. Blah, blah. You know, dealing with the headaches of support and all of that. So you've got to wonder, has VR actually been profitable for Sony? Like, if Sony could go back in time and be like, well, we could either cancel the entire PlayStation VR thing that we did, or we can continue to do it like we did it. Now, of course, Sony's going to make the argument, well, we've learned so much. Yeah, we may have, you know, maybe we actually lost a little money on VR overall if you combined everything up and all the research and development and everything. But we've learned so much and we're building towards the future. So you can make that argument, but you can also make a valid argument that Microsoft has dodged an effing bullet like a mofo by not getting involved in VR, and that they're waiting for the right time. And when it's the right time, they are going to do that. But Microsoft, you know, at some point in time, they could be involved in VR. Of course, we know that Microsoft is incredibly involved in AR. In fact, I was in an argument the other day with a guy on Reddit about Microsoft. It was about AR, and he was talking about Facebook, and he was trying to make this argument that Facebook is the number one play for AR. And I was like, well, you do know, right, that Microsoft basically bet the farm on AR from the very beginning. From the very beginning. Like, Microsoft in their boardrooms, they said, here's AR, here's VR. We're going to go into one of these. Which one? They picked AR. Like, they straight up picked AR. They've been in AR from the very beginning. They've had HoloLens 1, they got HoloLens 2. Alex Kipman, technical fellow, recently mentioned that HoloLens 3, they're going to have a consumer product at a certain point when the time is right. They're in this game. Microsoft, just remember the smartphone generation Microsoft completely missed the boat on that, and it kills them. It kills them to know that they completely missed the boat on the smartphone generation. It was a swing and a miss. They just completely missed out on that. They're not going to let this happen again. There's just no way they're going to let that happen again. So Microsoft is going to be very much involved with HoloLens and the AR future. So if you're bullish on AR, it's hard not to be involved in Microsoft. And then with Azure, with their Azure cloud platform, with edge computing, okay, the capabilities of edge computing are pretty immense when we get back to this, like, spatially mapping the known world. You know, having every micrometer of known existence mapped and dialed in. Azure is going to be able to help with that, both in sending information back and forth live, you know, in real time to headsets. And so Microsoft, not a bad stock to potentially be invested in this particular category. But like where they are really, unfortunately, they're in a bad position though in terms of like that ecosystem. That's where Facebook has a tremendous advantage, because Facebook has this ecosystem of titles and developers that they've got lined up. When Microsoft finally goes down the VR road with Xbox, they're going to be so far behind Facebook, so far behind Sony in terms of having this stable of properties that will draw people into their ecosystem. So, you know, that's a bit of a concern from that standpoint. Okay, let's see. So we just did Microsoft, and I think the next one is Apple, right? We're talking about, Apple is Apple has the largest market cap of any of these companies on this list. So let's go ahead and take a look at Apple stock. And you know, Apple's a stock that I did want to get into when I got back into investing earlier this year in February. Apple was definitely one of the stocks that I was considering. But you know what's interesting, folks? Apple stock, okay, so this is a 6-month chart of Apple stock, and it really hasn't gone anywhere or done a hell of a lot. You know, there's some peaks and valleys here. For example, like, you know, if you bought Apple stock on March 8th of this year, you could have got it at a low of 116. And then you could be selling it right now for 139, and you'd make a nice little, you know, or you could have sold it right here, you know, and then you could have bought back maybe here. I mean, but like timing the market, one of the things that a lot of investors will say is time in the market is greater than timing the market. That trying to time the market, you're going to lose way more than you're going to win, and it's better to just buy and hold, or possibly dollar cost average. So for example, if you wanted to get in Facebook, or you wanted to get in Apple in a major way, let's say you've got $10,000 that you want to invest in Facebook or Apple. One strategy that you could have is you invest $1,000 a month for 10 months. So each month you buy in $1,000, so that you're dollar cost averaging, so that if the market just freaking crumbles, inflation and all these worries and Delta variants and all this stuff, and the market freaking tanks, well, that month you bought way down here. And so it all ends up averaging out. That's one way to get in for the long haul. If you want to hold for the long time, you can dollar cost average your way in, because some people worry, God, am I buying at the freaking apex and then there's going to be a major crash, you know? But one of the things that you can consider here. So let's go to a 2-year chart, for example. Like somebody could say, like you could imagine, okay, imagine somebody that bought Apple right here. Okay, on February 10th, they paid $81.81. They bought it at the high of the day on February 10th. And then just a couple of days, you know, just a couple of weeks later, the low, $53.15. That is harsh, man. If you're up here at 81 and now you're like, God damn, my invest. Imagine you bought, you know, 1,000 shares, It'd be $81,000, right? And then now you're down to $53,000. Like your investment just got jackled. So you would think that would be an incredible tragedy, but like you hold on for the long term, and what do you know? Looks pretty good when you hold on for the long term, right? So yeah, over time, there's been a lot of consolidation here. This right here could be, a lot of this could be considered with like the whole Epic Games thing. Like until that thing is finally decided, or it looks like Apple's going to come out okay from that, the stock isn't going to run in a tremendous way. But yeah, if we just look at this stock in the last 6 months, you can see, look at it's been, it's been in this relatively narrow range since basically here. It's traded in a relatively narrow range. It gets up, goes down, gets up, goes down, and that's where it is. So it's at 139 right here. But I remember like in February, I was looking at it, but I think I was looking at it, it was in like this 120s, and it's just like it seemed like it was just living in this 120s for an incredibly long time. It's finally broken out of that. But yeah, so why would you want to be invested in Apple when it comes to this particular category? Well, we're talking about, remember this episode is all about walled gardens and platform holders, and it's like the grand prize. This is what everybody's dreaming about. Well, Apple already has it. They have the grand prize. It's a matter of, can they keep it? Can they keep this grand prize? Can they transition into this AR future and remain the clubhouse leader? And there's a lot of people that believe that they're going to be able to do that. So you could get into Apple. We know that they're going to be having a VR headset that is probably going to, we're probably going to hear about it in early 2022. It might arrive in late 2022. It's going to be incredibly expensive. It's not really going to be designed for in-level consumers. What it's really going to be designed for is to jumpstart developers into developing into this spatial ecosystem. Okay, that's what it's really about. That's what this VR headset that Apple is going to be coming out with is all about, because it's a VR headset, but it's going to be incorporating a lot of AR technology in it. And the reason they're doing that is to have the proper kind of AR headset that Apple would want to have. It's not there yet. It's not ready for prime time, and it's not going to be ready for prime time for a number of years. But you can't wait until it's actually ready and just be like, oh, okay, let's start now. No, you got to have that ecosystem primed. So on the way there, they can dabble with this VR, which is almost like a Trojan horse of getting these AR capabilities into the hands of developers and also well-heeled consumers that, hardcore Apple nut jobs that want to jump on it can be these early adopters, these beta testers, and that's how their ecosystem is going to start. But yeah, eventually, it's hard to think that Apple is just going to freaking fold and cave to Facebook and Google and Microsoft and just let these other companies run away with it. Apple's going to have their say, of course. So Apple is in the mix as well. But yeah, we've been going now for, I believe, 2 hours on this episode. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. So let's go ahead and go back over here. So yeah, so guys, basically this episode today, I know it was probably kind of weird and probably all over the map. Look, I'm not an expert. Once again, I am not a financial analyst. I'm not an investment expert of any shape or kind. But what I am is a VR and AR enthusiast, and I am interested in investing, and I do believe in the power of compound interest, and I do believe that every man, woman, and child over the age of 18 should be investing in some form or fashion and should be steady investing. That they say pay yourself first. Like when you get your check, pay yourself first. And what they mean by that is take a little bit of that money and invest it into something so that you can grow your money over time. Especially if some of you guys are watching this show and you're very young. I just think, God, imagine if I had a true understanding of how powerful compound interest was like 30 years ago? Where would I be today? Because the thing is, I knew about compound interest all those years ago, but I didn't know about it in the way that I know about it now. And it truly is the eighth wonder of the world, because compound interest, what it does is over time, it's just exponential. And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, but it takes 30 years. Like you go back into the old days and they'll be like, yeah, you get a savings account, you get 2% interest on your savings account, and 48 years later, you're going to have the. No, but what you can do is, you can literally, you can make 2% in a savings account for an entire year. They don't pay that much anymore. That was back in the old days. They pay hard. It's almost like you get almost nothing for having a savings account now, or a certificate of deposit. You get like almost nothing for it. But in the stock market, if you were making the right decisions, you could go in, boom, I made 10% this week. This week, I made 2% this week. I made 3% this week. And you reinvest, everything goes back in. Taxes are a major effing factor. You've got to think about taxes, ladies and gentlemen. So at the end of the year, when it's December 31st, you've got to think about every trade that you have made that entire year, and you've got to account for the taxes. If you completely reinvest everything back in, if you're selling stocks and you reinvest everything back in, that's great. And, if you're going up and you're going down, where you're only going to be taxed on your actual profits. But every time you sell a stock for a gain, it creates a taxable event. And that taxable event must be accounted for. So you do have to deal with the taxes aspect of it. So pay attention to that. But yeah, we're going to have many more episodes on this topic. And we're going to be getting into all kinds of different areas. We're going to be talking about, like, if you think about a teardown for a VR headset, think of all the different kinds of components that are in there, the screens, the lenses, the gyroscopes, the cameras, LiDAR. There's a lot of different ways that you can play this thing. And it's kind of good to watch these teardown videos and find out, oh, okay, Facebook, had to deal with this company for the audio. Facebook had to deal with this company for the Snapdragon. Facebook, where are these companies going to? Like, what is in the different Apple headset? Like, who is Apple using for their screens? Who is Apple using for their lenses? Who is Apple using for their GPU or their CPU? Or maybe it's in-house. Maybe they're developing it themselves. But there are so many investment opportunities. And then we can get into, we can talk about like these different volumetric video possibilities. We can talk about these different metaverses that different companies are trying. A lot of them have already gone under. We can talk about venture capitalists that were already in this game back in 2016, and a lot of them have just straight up lost everything. There's a lot of VR companies that receive 20, 30, 40 million dollars. Remember the void? Gone. We can talk about location-based entertainment. That's another aspect, location-based entertainment. We could talk about stuff like Disney. You might say, Disney? What does Disney have to do with VR and AR? What does Six Flags have to do with VR and AR? Well, if you believe in location-based entertainment long term, there could be something going on there, There could be a possibility there. Imagine when Disney really incorporates AR and VR with physical objects in a ride that you're participating in. It could be absolutely freaking spectacular. It could be incredible. And so those kind of companies could see tremendous benefits. So there's a lot of different angles to look at this, and we will be exploring it in future episodes. This is just our first episode. Also, I could possibly be bringing some various guests onto this show. If you happen to be a VR or AR related YouTuber and you're also investing in stocks and you're very interested in profiting on this insider knowledge that you have over this industry and taking advantage of the fact that you are a first mover, you're an early adopter, you're here before it's popular to be here. So you're gaining some kind of an understanding here, and you're seeing things before they blow up into the mainstream. So if you're one of these if you're a YouTuber and you're into this, go ahead and contact me, because I would like to have guests on this show where we can kind of argue back and forth about, which platform holder are you betting your money on? Which semiconductor company are you betting your money on? Which screen technology are you betting your money on? Which waveguide developer are you betting on? Which private company are you hoping IPOs at a certain point? There's lots of different things to possibly consider, so that'll be cool as well. But one of the things I'm most excited about is actually watching this show later and looking at all the comments that are in chat, because there's probably going to be some crazy, interesting comments that are in chat. Oh my God, Guy Godin says capital gains tax in U.S. is 23%. Anthony, here in Canada, it's 50%. Oh my God. Chris Richardson says, hit up Eric for president. He's looking for guests. You'd be perfect. Yeah, actually, I was chatting with Eric for president just yesterday, and he could end up being a guest on this show, and we could end up talking. Oh, and Chris Richardson says Disney has a lot to do with the death of the void. And Wood69 says Six Flags is a good one. Smart play. Yeah, so yeah, there's interesting ways, even like medical companies. Like, you got to think of the cascading effects. Medical companies, therapy, depression. Like, there's all kinds of things that could be treated with VR and AR. Dentistry. Dentistry? You're like, wait, how could dentistry benefit from VR and AR? Well, kids that are having like a root canal or something, they can have like a VR headset that like really captures them and takes them to this other place where in the meanwhile, they're freaking having a root canal happen at the same time. So there's a lot of different possibilities here. It's going to be really cool. So yeah, I'm very interested in checking out. Oh yeah, and Mepper says, he says, or you could buy at 130 and sell at 123. Yeah, that's another good one, folks. We don't always make money in the stock market. You can lose your ass in the stock market. You can absolutely lose your ass. There's no question. Anytime you can make money that seems easy, you can also lose money just as easily. So you have to have strategies when you're doing all this. And we'll get into that too as well. We might get into having your risk management before you even going into a trade and all that. I didn't want to get too deep into the woods, like right at the very beginning, but we definitely will do all of that. So I am looking forward to comments after the show and also checking out all these comments in chat. It's going to be super interesting to peep all that out. But yeah, that'll go ahead and wrap it up basically for this episode of VR 365. So I hope anybody liked this. You guys enjoyed it. And I'll definitely be back with future episodes. We've got so many other categories to cover in terms of investing in VR and AR. And I'm super looking forward to different suggestions of companies that I completely was overlooking and wasn't thinking about. It'll be exciting to find out all of that. All right, that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode of VR 365. I will see everybody next time. Have a great 4th of July, everybody, and we'll see you. Take it easy. Later.